Rich Tarani here. Thanks for watching. We are at TMC's Roadshow in Dallas, Texas, 2015. On our program is Kim Holney. She is the president and founder of Working Solutions. And Kim, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Welcome to Dallas.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's great. We love it down here.
Nice and hot today.
Nice and hot. It's getting cold back in New England, so it's nice to be here. So I thought we'd start out talking about something else that's really hot, the growth of your company.
Sure.
You guys have been doing great. You're one of the founders of the market that you serve. I figured you'd tell us a little bit about it.
Sure thing. Well, they called me Pioneer Woman over there, so I kind of like that term. Actually, almost 20 years ago, I created a concept, which was to basically take higher level professionals, find them from all over the country to service specific clients' needs, whether that be marketing research, product development, sales, tech support, whatever the case happens to be. And 20 years ago, the technology wasn't there. Technology to get interactions to a home office just completely didn't exist. 20 years ago, we had AOL, right? So anybody connected to the internet through AOL. So as time has gone on, technology has advanced, and it's really allowed our company to grow and grow and grow, because now we can get more and more interactions to the home office. And we have a community of about 110,000 agents nationwide and service all kinds of customers and all kinds of verticals. And as customers realize that, hey, I really, really like working with a customer who really knows my brand, it's taken off.
So you're acting kind of like almost a middleman between the vast army of workers and the people who need the work done.
Absolutely. And the clients who really want brand advocates. Because it's hard to find a brand advocate in a 10-mile footprint, right? It truly is. You're looking at a call center, you're looking at any type of office environment. Finding true brand advocates within that footprint, you may make them into brand advocates, but to truly find folks that have passion about the product or the service that you're offering doesn't come by very easily. And we're able to do that by spanning the country to find those folks.
Now, do you think that's why organizations are more accepting now of this kind of worker?
Absolutely, and I think true, more than anything, because the technology exists and the security exists in this day and age, that it's become less of a challenge. You know, when we started the business so many years ago, the questions that we would get would be something to the effect, how do you train somebody? How do you train somebody, if you're in Dallas, Texas, how do you train somebody in North Dakota? Or how do you train somebody in a small town in Alabama? And we'd have to go through the iterations to try to really convince them that yes, what we can teach somebody virtually, basically the same thing as having them in the classroom. We've brought on over the years experienced educators. So in a call center environment, typically you find somebody that's training an agent is a prior agent, right? An agent who has grown with that company, knows that product, and can really truly pass along the passion for that product, but they don't have the skills to be an educator. We actually bring on the educators to go back through and create that environment so that it's an active learning environment for those agents that are virtual. And we use all kinds of tools and processes to make sure that happens.
So you've just overcome probably one of the biggest concerns or potential drawbacks that people think of with this kind of model. Are there any other drawbacks that people should know about and that you've overcome?
Security, right? In this day and age where every transaction is typically a secure transaction, there's some type of personal information on every transaction. And I think, for many years, customers felt as though that you really can only have a secure transaction if we're all sitting in a room that doesn't have any windows. It has to be secured as you walk through. But the possibilities are limitless in terms of what we can do to provide to ensure that transaction is going to be as secure in a virtual environment as it is in a bricks and mortar environment. We've got the tools and the processes, and I think every day with all the breaches that come out, companies are getting smarter about how to circumvent that from happening and how to make sure that their data stays pure. And with all the PCI components and the HIPAA components that are in play, if companies are following those rules and those guidelines, certainly you're going to end up with some very secure transactions. So those concerns can certainly be alleviated.
So when companies are looking for a home-based services supplier, what are some of the concerns they should have about choosing a company? What are some of the things they should look for?
Not everybody's suited to work from home, right? I mean, I think I've reached out to many people over the years who are actually in office environments and said, I can't be productive working in a home. And so I think a lot of times companies, when they're either looking for an outsourcer to be that person who provides that at-home service. And, at home anymore is non-existent because everybody is working from home. But it's that virtualization, allowing for companies to be more efficient, allowing for companies to actually spend money on work time versus just sitting time, right? And as you get to the point where you're actually able to measure those transactions on a minute-to-minute basis or on a transaction-to-transaction basis, companies are becoming more and more attuned to truly the money that they can save. You can't do that by just saying, hey, I've got a group of 50 people here. I think I'm going to take my 10 best and send them to work from home, because it just doesn't happen. You have to be focused on the interaction. You have to be focused on the efficiency. And I think, companies such as ours, we're looking for those things. We manage every day, every minute to the efficiency.
Now, some companies or people have voiced concern about outsourced labor taking jobs from people, full-time jobs. How do you look at that argument?
So there's a great example today in the paper. Not going to state it, but there's a very large company who has a big presence in North Texas that's going to lay off between 25,000 and 30,000 people. I know all of those folks are truly feeling a huge sense of pain and fright today. I look at it as a great opportunity. Now is time where those individuals can take control truly of their earnings and their career, right? They can work in an environment that allows them to do what they want to do and when they want to do it. So I think from an individual standpoint and a company standpoint, they're worried about, hey, you're going to take all these jobs. That's really not the case. We're making lots of jobs. We're giving people opportunity to work at 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. to 5 a.m., which otherwise they may not be able to do in a true office environment. They've got to care for an elderly parent, or they want to be there when their kids come home and be there at the bus stop with them. Or, maybe they have some type of limitation that doesn't allow them to work outside the office space. We're creating jobs. We're not taking them away. And I think, 10 years ago when offshore was so hot, right? Offshore was going to save the world lots of money because you're going to send all these transactions offshore, and my company's going to be better because of it, because I'm going to cut down on my expenses tremendously. I do think there's an opportunity for some of that offshore work. It's the back office work. It's the processing that doesn't require a lot of complex skills. But I think as a customer and as a business, I always want that strong interaction between an individual that knows my brand and product and an individual that's my customer. I think oftentimes when you do send offshore, you get to the point where you get angry customers, or you feel like they can't produce quite as well as an onshore. What we've done is take the best of both worlds. We're a more cost-effective option, but allowing all of those smart individuals here in the United States to be able to take on that work that they can take on as much or as little as they please.
Excellent. So you guys are definitely pioneers. You're decades ahead of your time. I mean, now we hear companies like Uber are faced with the same kind of challenges that you are in terms of these kinds of, part-time workers that are able to have more flexibility in how they work and how they earn a living. So congratulations on really being a pioneer. I mean, you're years ahead of everyone else. I mean, there are some online companies doing similar things, right? We know about Elance and some of the other ones, but you were really far ahead. What do you think is going to happen from a political standpoint? Because we know that some politicians have already made a big deal about they call it the gig economy, and whether they need to force companies to give flexible workers the same benefits as full-time workers. Like, is that an issue? Is that something to be concerned about?
You know what? Well, if you look back, and we're going to get kind of sticky here with our current law, right? Fair Labor Standards Act of the 30s was built in the 30s for work environment of the 30s. It was heavy manufacturing. Much of the industry that was in place in the 30s is no longer in place today. Sure. But we still have that law in effect, right? That guideline that says this is how you're to do things, which was made so many years ago, we still use today as our country's guideline. And I think as workers become more independent and more in control of their outcome, where they don't want a company taking control of what they do. They don't want a company to tell them you have to work part-time. They don't want a company saying you have to work full-time. They don't want a company saying you have to work on the weekends. They want to take control. So I think that as we move into the next 10 or 15 years, yeah, I mean, I think the whole benefits and the health insurance component is pretty significant, but you'll see this movement of individuals who say, I don't want somebody to tell me how I'm going to earn my living. I want to be responsible for my living and do as I want. And I think you'll find this whole contingent workforce that starts to peel off, and companies will be able to take advantage of it because it is more efficient. Companies may not need an 8-hour worker. Why would I staff a call center in 8-hour shifts when my volume really only comes between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m.? But I've got to staff 75 people at 8 a.m. to be prepared for that 11 a.m. shift. It's so much more efficient if you can be flexible and adaptable to what your customers need. And I think that's what we'll start to see. And I do think you'll start to see some pushback. I really do, both from an individual standpoint, and I think, obviously the lawmakers want to make sure everybody has coverage, everybody has the benefits that they need, and we'll let them battle that out. But I think from an individual standpoint, we will certainly start to see people stand up and take a stand.
Fantastic. Anything else we should know before we sign off?
No.
How do we get a hold of you?
How do we get a hold of me? Oh, absolutely. I think we probably should tell people that, right?
We know it. Your Twitter handle is at Working Sol.
At Working Sol, absolutely. Our website is workingsolutions.com.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.